Good afternoon. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 17 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. Before I go into the regular general comments and reminders and formally introduce our guests who are before us today, I just want to bring to everyone's attention a letter that has been shared with everyone that is on committee. It was a letter that was brought forward by Deputy Minister Kochar, and I'm going to just read a couple of sentences from it because I think it's important for us to highlight. He had indicated that he's expressing his growing concern about the safety and well-being of public servants who appear before Standing Committee. He's also indicated that recent participants has endured significant harassment, abuse, and threats from the public, ranging from social media attacks to hostile messages sent to their work emails and even in-person confrontations. He's further indicated that one source of harassment, so it's not all, one source of harassment stems from short, decontextualized clips of committee appearances by public servants being posted on social media by members of Parliament or their staff. And then he has also said that without a change in approach, he's concerned that threats and intimidation from the public will persist, increasing the risk to public servants who appear before the committees. I'm reading all of that because I want to implore all committee members from all parties, that's all of us from all sides and our staff, to be very cognizant about how we use the information from this committee, whether it's online or offline. It is vitally important that we understand how we're using it and how it may be interpreted, because we do not want, whether it's witnesses from the department. I see you, Ms. Rempel. Garner, please let me finish. We do not, whether it's witnesses that are from the Immigration Citizenship Department or any of our witnesses in any way ever to feel that it is a safety risk for them to come before our committee and that coming before our committee would in any way ever result from their safety being in any way threatened. So, do you have a point of order?
I do. Since you've introduced this letter, I had hoped to talk to you offline about it, but you've now introduced it. So I would like to provide the conservative response to the letter. I wish we could have done this in private, but you have introduced it, so I'm going to briefly provide the conservative response. It's in a form of a letter to the minister. I'm writing to you with regard to a letter to your deputy minister that your deputy minister sent to the chair of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. I have copied her below. In the letter, your deputy minister makes a troubling accusation and an even more concerning recommendation. First, he made an accusation that gave that negative feedback one of his colleagues received after a committee appearance, which was in no way detailed or substantiated in the letter, was somehow the fault of members of the committee. Second, he implied that public testimony at committee should not be shared. Given the eyebrow-raising nature of this content, I'm affording you the courtesy of assuming that your most senior bureaucrat went rogue and sent the letter to the committee without your knowledge. If that is truly the case, I trust you will enact appropriate disciplinary measures. If you did, in fact, sign off on this letter, allow me to provide you with some feedback that may help you effectively manage the situation. 1, if your officials have experienced criminal behavior, they should report it to the authorities. I condemn any actual harassment or intimidation against any Canadian, and no one should experience criminal harassment or criminal abuse. In fact, I myself have faced criminal harassment for holding your government to account. I am pleased to report I have not allowed it to silence me. Given your government's insistence that Canada's criminal justice system works in favor of the victims, if your officials feel their accusation has risen to the level of criminality, your officials should have no problem reporting this to the police, having them taking it seriously, and seeing the perpetrator brought to swift justice. Godspeed to them. I would also note that it was most recently a Liberal MP who set the bar for harassing behavior in a committee. That was the Status of Women Committee, but I digress. Number 2, recognize that your officials carry your water. Based on the limited information your deputy minister provided in this letter, and the fact that he did not mention the incident had been reported to authorities, I have to assume that the incident he described did not reach the threshold for criminality. The limited, unverified accusations he presented suggested this official was presented with a person who was irritated by the content they provided on your behalf during a committee. If this is the case, perhaps the Prime Minister, who recently told a journalist who was questioning him over a failure that you should look inside yourself, perhaps you should do that as well. Your government wants to turn the once strong immigration system into an unmitigated dumpster fire. You and your cabinet colleagues have made policy decisions which have enabled mass abuse of Canada's asylum system, mass overall immigration levels with little thought to impact or taxpayer funds, the healthcare system, housing support or a youth jobs crisis, wage suppression, and the UN describing aspects of the immigration system as akin to slave labor. Said differently, I wouldn't want to have to appear before a parliamentary committee to defend your actions either. In fact, I feel sorry for your DM and your officials. However, if you want the public to support the testimony of officials, then you should make better policy and decisions. The buck stops with you. 3, understand that it's the committee's job to hold you to account for your decisions, and we will not be censored. It's the job of non-government members to hold you to account for your decisions. This includes asking questions of department officials who taxpayers pay to execute said decisions, and the public's right to see these proceedings. This is a fundamental part of our democracy. It is troubling that rather than advising you to make better decisions, you have instead directed your DM to try to censor parliamentarians and infringe upon our rights. Do better. We will not accept any form of censorship, and we will not roll over to make it easier for you and your government to get away with breaking Canada's immigration system. Rebuilding Canada's consensus for immigration rests on our ability to use the committee to hold you to account, propose policy, and get you to do the right thing. We will stay the course. Giddy up. Number 4, your department officials have a history of providing unclear information to this committee and sometimes appear to even be obfuscating parliamentarians. I have reached my limit with regard to your officials giving unclear testimony at committee and failing to provide parliamentarians information we need to scrutinize the government's decisions. I appreciate that your government's tactic of trying to impose censorship measures or withhold information from Canadians is designed to make it easier for you to get away with all of the issues that you've had in the system and how you failed with Canadians. This spans from your government suing the Speaker of the House of Commons to prevent the release of duly voted on document production orders and filibustering numerous committees for the same. Recently, I discovered that your government has been instructing officials to actively find ways to avoid answering my questions and using, quote, limiting language. I found this out in an ATIP. So forgive me if I take your DM's detail-free accusations with a healthy dose of skepticism. With regard to your officials' recent performance at committee, and I can list it, I have numerous occasions where they gave unclear, and we had to do follow-up examples. In fact, your deputy minister had to write the committee on November 24th, admitting that they did not convey a complete picture of the CBSA's work. Number 5, your government has enabled a culture of managerial incompetence in your department. I direct your attention to the Yates report. I could read multiple quotes out of that, the diffuse organizational structure and a lack of clear accountability in large committee membership. It's just boggling me. Here's the other thing. From 2015 to today, the head count at your department has doubled, yet processing times in some streams have grown to a mind-boggling 10 years. That is insane. In no going concern would any board members allow the FTE count to double while the outcome becomes precipitously worse. This is squarely the fault of your prime ministers who have treated the immigration ministry as the armpit of cabinet, appointing multiple incompetent ministers incapable of righting the ship over the last decade. So, in closing, I will not be silenced. The members of my committee will not be silenced. And you, Minister, need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel. Garner.